Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are on your purpose. Hope you guys are conquesting yourselves. And a result of that, conquesting things around you under God's purposes. Well, it's been a while, my friends. Basically, trying to kind of get a lot of things done. I actually didn't even get a chance to look at the shout-outs and the vast comments you guys have made over the last few weeks. I try to respond to them if I can, but I will go back and look at those. Been very, very busy, so trying to kind of do one here. I don't know, it's been about a week or so, so I'm going to try to do one. So, I don't have any shout-outs. So basically, we just kind of go into the topic. And the topic for this one, my friends, is called the cost of attraction. So why do I say that? Okay, so let's take a look at this idea of retention. So as you look at this, and I guess I'm at, I don't know what it is now, 1900 days, something like that, over several years now. I think actually the pandemic back in 2020 or something like that now. So almost 5 years, we're getting close to 5 years, I believe, or maybe it's even over 5 years, probably, I think it's over 5 years. And when you look at this, and the reason I did this was basically because I felt that there was something missing. And yeah, I did do the Fountain of Youth stuff, and I did all Kendler stuff, and I had some moderate success. Obviously, I'm 64 now, so I did have some success. I wasn't looking 65 or 75 or 85, but there was still something missing. And when I looked at the book with Kendler's book talking about the sixth right, which is an extra one, that really kind of got to the crux of what the issue is. The issue really is the fact that if you're holding your energy inside and you're transmuting it, you should be a lot more stronger, effective, all these things when it comes to your physical, your mental health, your spiritual health, all these things. And now in society, we see a lot of people who are deficient in not only the physical, but the mental and the spiritual. And is it any wonder? It may be part of the problem we have with a lot of the issues we have is because people have a lack of energy. So semen retention is something that is really important when it comes to this whole idea. So we talk about what the cost of this is. And so there's lots of costs that you could ascribe to this. So as we talk about this, what are we talking about? Well, it took me 47 years to actually get to this point in which I'm now grateful and blessed that I found the absolute truth in my world, at least, about what should be done. And that's totally, I call monk mode, and totally avoiding any kind of lustful thoughts at all, anything thinking of that. And that's not always been easy as well, unlike the same thing with the no fap and all that, which is 1900 days. But the monk mode, even thinking about those type of thoughts, that's always been a challenge for me, and I'm getting better with that part of it as well. But the thing is there's a cost to everything we do. You can look at it as a cost. You can also look at it as just a sacrifice or anything else you want to look at when it comes to why are we doing this. So the thought pattern is that we're told in society that in order to have fun and enjoy life, we have to have all kinds of parties, using all these type of things, the enhancers, the drugs, the alcohol, obviously the pornography, all the things, and we have to have lots of women around if we're a male, a lot of males around if we're a female, and all of a sudden all those things are necessary for us to really enjoy life. And I go back to the 1960s where I was born in 61, and I was still a kid, but 9, 10, 11 years old. I still remember the whole idea of the me generation. I mean, even Pepsi had the me generation commercials back then. I remember those. And so as a kid, I remember that the focus became, well, it's the me generation. And I think that came out of the 60s type of revolution and things we fought for, and people were not happy with the establishment, all the problems in Vietnam, all the problems that we had with the drug culture, all that kind of stuff, and people wanted to express themselves, which is why you see a lot of the music still being played. In the 60s, people felt that was a popular time because people could express themselves and do all that. Well, a lot of those songs were based on drugs and different types of things that I remember back then that people sometimes forget about now. And a lot of that stuff was stuff that they did, and they sacrificed a lot of things. So when you look at doing things, you're doing things in a way you're going to sacrifice to get the end result. So back in those type of things, obviously people did a lot of those drugs, got high, those things, and because they sacrificed probably their health and things like that over time because they wanted to feel good. They wanted to feel like they were strong. Now, when we talk about the semen retention types of costs we have, of course, one of the biggest costs we have is a lifestyle change. You have to actually change your lifestyle. You have to get to the point where you're going to say, I am not going to have lustful thoughts anymore. I am not going to have addictive thoughts to things. I'm going to exert a high level of self-control and be control of my own life. And when you do that, obviously you're changing your whole mental approach. You're living in a different world. I talk about this when we talk about the Bible, talking about the fact that there's a spiritual world, and then there's the material world that everybody lives in. And so it's hard to live in the spiritual world, especially when you're in the material world. So one of the sacrifices you're making is that you're not going off and gambling. You're not going off and spending a lot of money. You're not going to go off and try to, if you're married, have affairs and sleep around and have, if you're not married, even sleeping around, all that kind of stuff. You're not going to go watch pictures and all that. Your whole mental approach changes. And when your mental approach changes, you look at life differently. So now you appreciate all these other things in life. You appreciate the trees, you appreciate the classroom we're in, you appreciate all those things because you didn't notice those things before. Because you're so caught up in lustful thoughts, all these other types of addictive type of things, and now you're breaking away from that to a point in which you're saying basically, my life is changing. The same thing with monetary things. I mean, the material types of things, monetary types of things. Those things change, and you don't put as much value on those things anymore. Obviously, the old saying is you can't take it with you. And so a lot of people want to take things with them. They're buried in the old days. They used to bury people, mummies and things, with all their jewels, thinking it's going to have, help them. But the bottom line really is that you can't take all those material things with you. I think Jesus said, what is the coin? Looked at a coin and said, what is Caesar's is Caesar's, and what is God's is God. And so basically what you're having is you're trying to look at things around you and say, okay, what is really important? So when you start this process, which, like I said, took me 47 years to get to, and I thank the Lord tremendously, unbelievably, that I got to this point where I'm actually now getting closer to Him. And that's kind of what reason I'm doing all this to begin with, is to get closer to Him as time goes on. Because that's the life that I feel will make me more peaceful, happiest, and help people the most that I can do, following God's wishes. You're in the other world, you're basically focusing. Now you have, and we're unusual, those of us who feel this way, because we have both feet in both worlds. There's times when I have to deal with the material world, of course, but there's other times when you can think and more of the spiritual world. And so I believe people, as they go along, if they have, if they develop a faith towards the Lord and their Creator, they'll move slowly more from the material world to the physical world as they get older. And as they get closer to death, they'll get closer to God. And I think that makes perfect sense to me. We'll see if that ends up happening in the long run. No one can tell. But that may be something that happens to me as well as time goes on. But going back to sacrifices and the cost is something that you have to consider. And so that's why a lot of people don't do this. Why we have 99% of people in the world don't practice semen retention. They don't practice self-control. They don't practice celibacy. They don't practice brahmacharya. They don't practice any of those things because, in all seriousness, that means they have to change a lifestyle. And they're so wrapped up, whether it's addiction, approval, they're so wrapped up and they have to have this lifestyle that basically this is what they cannot go to a different lifestyle. This is why, if you tell people that you're being celibate, It's just people actually laugh at you, almost like monk-like, right? And that's why monk mode is popular. So you're basically kind of changing the viewpoint of a lot of people who believe that you're crazy, you know what you're talking about. When you try to decide, okay, I'm going to practice brahmacharya, I'm going to practice celibacy, sophism, stoicism, all of these things, people think you're crazy. However, this to me is the truth. This is to me is what we should be doing. We should be practicing those things the old Greeks and Romans had professed, especially in trying to be celibate unless you're going to have children. But that is such a crazy concept in this society because people don't see that. And as I said, we're living in a whole different matrix than we really should be living. But again, those people who are spiritual, God is bringing them out, in my opinion, of that matrix to kind of see what in reality we have. And what's in reality is more of the spiritual need for peace, for happiness. And I have not felt more peaceful and happiness in my whole life. And as I get older, I'm feeling more peaceful by the day as I'm doing more of this retention. So yes, is the benefits great? Yeah. I mean, attraction's still through the roof, But the thing is, I look at it differently. Yes, if I was 20 years old and I was looking for somebody, the retention would be a great avenue to find somebody. But again, you're looking at life differently. You're not looking at life in a lustful way towards women, especially. And so you're looking at them as just people, that good people, bad people, happy people. And you're working with them and you're trying to be nice to people, but you're not lusting after them as like an object type of thing. And this, I think we should practice more and more. But because the whole society is debased in thinking, well, because of money, they want to make money on pornography and books and images and all that, people get the idea that these are objects. Well, of course, if you're looking at a picture, if you're looking at a movie, they will become an object. This is what's so appealing to people, because they're not a real person. And so they can kind of do whatever they want, the person, think of anything they want to think of, and it becomes a very attractive thing. But the whole key to this whole thing is to basically take a step back and go to a different lifestyle. And that is not an easy thing to do. And this is why a lot of people don't do this. They choose to rather go into the old ways, and the comfortable ways they are, and they don't want to change who they are. So this is why we talk about the cost of, the cost of attraction, the cost of semen retention is great. It's great. The cost, the sacrifices you have to make is really a tremendous amount if you think about changing your whole lifestyle to look at this. But what I have found, especially doing monk mode, is that I don't need any of that. And that's the craziest thing that I can think of. I could not think like that 5, 6, 7 years ago. To me, that was the whole thing. Thinking about women, all these type of things all the time. That's the thing that makes you a man, right? Well, it's actually not. It's kind of the opposite, right? Men should provide, protect, be able to be that strong masculine man that you are. But if you're sitting there chasing women around, or in my case, even thinking about it, at some point, that's when I had problems all those years, right? Because that's what I thought about, And I think what the thing is you want to go ahead and get away from that and now realize that that is not the most important thing. And that's actually not even on the list. What you should be focusing on is obviously doing your best to achieve the goals, set your goals, short-term, long-term goals. They could be in areas like physical fitness, spirituality, intelligence, job types of things, making money. All those are kind of goals. I mean, I think the society, because of the way to make money and all the addictions that come with this type of thing, people want to make money. So it's, though they may not do it on purpose, what comes out is they create addictions that people have to continue to go with, and they're going to make lots of money on that, no matter what happens to the person. So whether it's an eating addiction, whether it's a smoking addiction, whether it's a gambling addiction, drug addiction, imaging, pornography addiction, doesn't really matter. It's all addiction. And people make money off of those addictions. And so those people who can't control themselves or choose not to control themselves fall victims into those type of things. And so the cost of retention, the cost of attractiveness, and all these things we have is the fact that you have to change your lifestyle. You cannot just say, okay, I want to go into semen retention because I want to attract women. That attitude itself creates the problem. You're never going to be all that successful retention if you're basically trying to attract women. Now, is one of the benefits the fact that you're going to attract women? Yeah, and the more you don't want to attract women, the more you're going to attract women. That's kind of the psychology that behind the whole, well, because I'm not pursuing you, you're pursuing me. And women pick up on that. But remember, the reason you're doing all this is because you're trying to avoid that temptation. So it makes no sense that when you sit there and say, I'm going to practice semen retention, and you get this attractiveness, now I'm going to go fall back into the temptation. So what you want to do is it's kind of like an oxymoron here. So you're basically saying, I'm going to go ahead and practice retention and I want to attract women, but then, I'm not going to fall in temptation. It's a very difficult thing to do. And I know I was on that end of it for a long time. So what you really want to do is kind of commit yourself, look at, I'm going to stop doing this and I really want to get the benefits, but I'm not interested in women. I'm interested in trying to achieve goals. I'm interested in bettering myself. I'm interested in having a closer relationship with God. I'm interested in trying to become a better man, a better husband, a better boyfriend, a better father, whatever it might be. That's what you should be interested in. Now, you will get attraction, you'll get abundance in a lot of different things, but again, you'll learn A, how to control yourself better, and then B, you'll learn how to be a stronger person, thereby attracting more things to you. And strength of the character, strength inside you comes not only from the retention and keeping your energy and transmuting it, but the bigger part of it really is that you're learning how to control you. And God has given us that talent to be able to control ourselves and not to fall victim to Satan. I mean, Jesus was in the desert for 40 days, and can we do that? Can we sit down and not do certain things for 40 days? I think certainly when it comes to monk mode, that tests us when it comes to the pornography and the imaging and all that kind of stuff and sleeping with people. That will always test you, and that's something you have to be concerned with. But the tempting of it is something you shouldn't bring upon yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. So edging, all these things that we talk about really are things you should not be going into. You should basically say, okay, I'm making a definite commitment. But this is the key. I had to do that, but I was 59 when I did that. Now I'm 64. So you have to make that commitment. You got to say to yourself, look, this is not working the way I want. Maybe it's not progressing the way I want. I need to do something to get closer to my Creator, my God. And so if I make this change, I know I'll get benefits. Part of those benefits is attraction. But the thing is that you want to focus on, though it's attraction, I can do nothing but look at this as a flattery type of statement and appreciate it like it is. And I happen to be married. So if you're not married, you want to pursue, it's fine, but you're still only talking about, in my mind, one person. And all these people may be, liking you and all that kind of stuff, but you're only talking about one person. And obviously you want somebody who's going to help you achieve your goals. Again, you're refocusing. You're not focusing your energy on women. And that's something, and no disregard to women. Women are wonderful and beautiful, but you're not going to get away from the problems that we're facing in a society with young men if you focus on women all the time. And you got to be able to refocus on yourself and make yourself the best masculine man you can be. So the cost of attraction is a lot. I mean, you're spending a whole lifestyle changing. And the fact that you're going to be attractive is great, but it also presents a lot of potential issues unless you change your lifestyle. Okay, my friends. Well, it's great to talk with you guys again. I hope we do really soon again. Hopefully, I'll do it better in a couple weeks. I'll try to get it done. But hopefully, things will settle down a little bit, and I'll have a little extra time, maybe early next week, to kind of do it. So, again, I will catch up on the shout-outs. I'll do other things. I'm glad you guys continue listening to the channel. It's wonderful that you guys are getting something out of it, and I appreciate that a great deal. All right, until then, until next time. Hope you guys have a great time, great day in God's purpose and God's word. And two things I always leave with. Every day is a new day to a great warrior, and each one of you guys are great warriors. And we have to continue to battle on and face the devil, put on our head plate, our armor, our shield, because we have to continue to battle on! Take care, guys. Have a great day.